Everybody, welcome to Deep Dive with Dara with Vincent Wolf, one of my absolutely favorite designers and a true friend. So I feel so lucky to have him with us today. We had some technical difficulties, so I'm sorry that we're late. But here we are. I think you're in for a treat. Vincent, before we start, I just wanted to tell two quick stories because I think it's one of the reasons that I asked you on today to talk about floor plans. So Vincent and I have known each other for about 30 years, almost 30. And he knew me before I had kids, when I was a young mother. And I have a lot of...
Single.
I'm sorry? Single, exactly. Young and single. Anyhow, there were two things that we did together that I was just completely blown away by your sense of space and your ability to do a floor plan. So the first was a shoot that we did, I think it was in the Hamptons, and we met at the flower market. And normally I would go to flower markets and I'd be like, let's get this and let's get this. And I would get lots of stuff, you know, just in case, like we needed this or we needed that. I'd have a general idea of what to get. But you went in and you were like, I'll take this, and I'll take this. And you knew exactly where everything was going. Like there wasn't a doubt in your mind. It was the least expensive flower bill that I had ever had from a photo shoot. And we got there, and sure enough, it was like everything was perfect. It was like in your mind's eye, you could just see it. Like there was no doubt. So I think you have a very uncanny way of seeing the world. I don't know if you have a photographic memory or what.
I have no memory. I mean, the memory is gone. But I visualize.
Yeah, you have an incredible way of visualizing things. And then the other story is my husband and I David had just bought our apartment on 89th Street. And we had spent all the money on the apartment and there was no money left for furniture. I mean, I had like a few things that I had bought from the flea market. And they were interesting things. One was like a black leather wing chair. Another was kind of like, I can't even remember what it was. It was some kind of stand for a photograph. And you walked in and you said, may I? I was like, may you what? And you just looked at me and you moved all the furniture around in my living room. And within a second, it just looked so incredible. So anyway, I'm so happy to have you here talking about.
Can I say one thing?
Yeah.
Well, you opened the book of my self-belief in a project we did for House Beautiful, which was flea market shopping.
I remember
and
that.
Up to that point, I always thought it was luck. And we went to Salvation Army, we went to all these places. We didn't know where we were going to shoot it. We showed up at this place with a truck full of furniture. The place was filthy dirty. And then no, it wasn't your place, it was somebody's
No, I know, but I'm wondering if the person is listening. But okay.
And we put it together, and it was really, I have no formal education, I'm dyslexic, I didn't study design, so I always felt that it was luck. And when we put this job together, and we put everything, all the stuff from flea markets and from Salvation Army, I looked at it and I said, no, it cannot be luck. It was the first time that I realized that it had to do with whatever talent I have. And that really changed my whole approach about how I see myself as a creative person. So I have to thank you for that. So.
Oh my God, I didn't know that. Well, I remember it being a really fun project. And it was for House Beautiful. And we photographed, remember we photographed all the junk and we ran it as a double page spread.
Right.
And then you sat in the room. So beautiful. Well, I'm glad I had a part in that, but you didn't need me, that's for sure. So tell us a little bit about your journey before we get started and start looking at your floor plans and how you think about laying out a room in a house. Tell us a little bit about that.
I come from Cuba. Left Cuba when I was 15 in 1961. I went to Miami. 2 years later, I moved to New York. My father had separated from my mother, and I lived with him for a period. Then he left, and I stayed alone in New York. I knew the moment I got to New York and I looked around, I walked on Madison Avenue and I said, this is where I want to be. I don't want to be in Miami. And, you know, I think that if you don't know what you want to be, which happens to a lot of people, if you have a formal education, at least you have something to fall on. I had none of that. So I went through merchandising, advertising, fashion, acting. I have no memory, so that took care of the acting. The teacher said you can emote, but you can't remember the lines. I tried so many different things, and by this time I was in like 20, 21, broke, just really at a loss. And I was very lucky to meet somebody who was involved in the industry. And Bob Patino sort of, I saw what he did. And my family in Cuba were in construction, so I understood plans. And that's how it started to roll. I was very lucky to have been at the right place at the right time. In the middle 70s, design was changing from just an elitist industry to an upper middle class. And people in that level didn't want to be traditional, they wanted something different. So it was being at the right place at the right time, and I've been in it since then. I went on my own in 1988. And again, being at the right place, Reagan was very traditional, and President Reagan. And I got a loft where I was living with not much furniture, but Norma Skirka of the New York Times came in and saw it, and she said, this is news. And I got 4 pages in the Sunday magazine of the New York Times, which unfortunately doesn't do that anymore. And that was it, you know, just pure luck of being able.
But you know, you're also, I don't think it's just pure luck, because I remember when we met, I was a freelancer and I was working for a magazine called 7 Days, just doing a freelance story. We were at Kate's Papery, which no longer exists. And you heard me talking to the manager about borrowing some stuff. And you came up to me and you said, I'm Vincent Wolf. And, you know, so you seized the opportunity also. So it's not just that.
You were pretty and young, and I figured that's an easy hit, you know.
I'm sure
But
that's
I'm very shy. So to do those things, I was desperate. When the partnership ended, I ended up leaving with $5,000. And that was all I had. So I had no time to waste. I mean, I figured when the partnership separates, one succeeds. And I wanted to be sure that it was going to be me. And so I pushed myself to go and talk to you because, you know, I had to. But anyway, you were saying.
so, well, one of the things I wanted to just talk about is that you have dyslexia, and it's pretty severe dyslexia, right? But I think that that's also probably one of the things that makes you a genius when it comes to floor plans. Because I think you see things in a way that other people don't see them. Do you think that's true?
Well, I think that if you had no legs, your arms get really strong. And because I didn't have, is it right brain strength? The creative part took a lot of designers are dyslexic. Listen, Bill Gates, I think, was dyslexic, and the guy of the airplane, what's his name?
The guy from Virgin America, Branson.
Right, he's dyslexic. You know, so you you play with the cards that you've been dealt with. And I think that it depends upon how much support you may have around you to be able to swim upstream. And I was lucky. I was very, very lucky to, to have fallen in at the right moment. I think if I would have started now, I wouldn't be where I am, because it has become very competitive, very much, high tech. You have to be able to CAD, this and the other. I mean, I learned to draft, with a ruler and paper. I think that the opportunities now are much less because so many people have joined the industry that I think unless you have a full deck, you just, I think, find it very hard to succeed.
But there's only one Vincent Wolf.
Well, I hope so. I mean, if not, there's somebody else I want part of their business then on the side. So let me ask you, Dara, the plans that I sent to you, I tried to go through jobs that had slightly different layouts. Was that what you were looking for?
Yeah, it was perfect. So Annie's going to share the screen and we're going to talk through the slides. But before we do that, I just want to ask you a more general question. So do you always start with a floor plan when you're designing a room, typically?
Definitely. The first thing I deal with is the architecture of the space. Okay. I think that the furnishings, the frosting, really for me, can only work when the architecture has a substance, a spine, a skeleton that then I can apply the things to. And because of what my decorative approach to spaces, which is very neutral and just sort of it looks like it's been thrown together, only works, I think, when the architecture is supporting. It's the other half. It's not just about the decoration or the architecture, it's about how they blend together.
Okay, so do you want to walk us through the one that's on the screen? Like, where is this house?
First I have to realize, what am I looking at? So this is a house in, God, I don't know. God, I'm getting nervous now. I don't know. Can I see the drawing? Okay. Oh, okay. So this was she wanted nothing with a curve, everything to be straight line. This particular client really was great to me because she forced me to approach this space in a different way, and I was very lucky. So it was one big space with a kitchen at one end, but they used this room to watch TV, to hang out. So I wanted some sort of separation. So I worked with this artist in Wyoming or someplace like that, who created the screen that you see here out of wood, which we then created a steel frame around it to have it float within the space. But I started with the flooring that was happening outside, brought it into the space, and all the coloration was all sort of like a spread of the same tonality. The kitchen was done very, very simply, very sort of straight line, back-to-back head on one side to the screen where they would have breakfast. But then on the other side, you had like the den. So it really worked. It was a yin and yang because the windows are more traditional, but the scale of the room was so grand that it really allowed a great deal of light to come in. And we did shears to really soften the windows and the setting.
So I have a few questions for you. So it's interesting. She wanted everything squared off and straight, but it seems like, you got those Pantone chairs, you got the room divider that has a lot of curves to it. How did she react to that?
Because she saw the practicality of the room divider. She didn't see the lines of it. She saw the chairs, which were very, modern, very sort of see-through. I think that when you're presenting a job, you know who your client is. And so for me, I use the verbal selling of trying to point out the things that appeal to them and let the other ones fade away. Because I know that when a client is looking at a presentation or looking at renderings, that they're not really seeing it in their minds. They're sort of picking up bits and pieces, but they're not seeing the completed job, because most people are not visual. So I pushed the things that I knew that would appeal to them, and then kept the others as a surprise when the whole job came together.
Right.
So,
and those organic shapes, I think, are one of the things that makes it so special.
absolutely, because if it was all hard edge, when I said to do the shears, it took a big fight because I don't want anything in the curtains. I don't want any curtains. It looks like my grandmother's house. I said, but this is not your grandmother's house. And you want to be in this space and feel that there's a sense of warmth balanced out by the very straight lines, the high ceilings, the stone floors. You wanted that sort of yin and yang, which is, I think, what took the space from just being an architectural environment to being a home.
So another thing that you mentioned, which was on my list of questions to ask you about, because in Montauk, you have this beautiful stone floor and it goes all the way from outside to inside. So like big rustic stones, so beautiful. One of the most beautiful floors I've ever seen. So what does that do?
Well, the other half to the space are lacquered walls, very straight. I love straight lines, things that match each other, and just sort of keeps the eye flowing to the space. So you had, again, the yin and yang of very, I had done a job with Bob, 40 years ago, 45 years ago, and we used the stone, which is called crab orchard, which is used in a lot of tacky houses in the exterior because they cut everything very sharp, and it's usually very rusty color. But when we found the stone, what we did is we got the gardener to lay the stone. And what that did was he didn't chop it up, clean it up. He just laid it in like a puzzle. He tried to fit them all together. And it made such an enormous difference to the house that when we started the work in Montauk, we brought the guy in to lay the floors. The only place that we used a mason was in the shower. And he took those stones and he cut them all very straight. And we had to rip the shower out and have the gardener install it in the shower. But I think that what it brings you is, I love the flow of stepping up the steps, leading you into the house, walking throughout the whole house. It just brings it to the earth. It gives it a sense of continuity, a sense of, you're dealing with it with a very shorthand. Because most people would say, well, oh my God, using the outside and inside and everywhere. Let's break it up. But we didn't want to break it up. We wanted you to know that the outside went into the inside and that the home was part of nature and part of the beautiful area where the house is set. And so that's what we did here. It's out in the pool. It goes throughout the decks. It goes onto the inside, and then we tied it together with wood floors. So in certain areas, it was stone floors with inserts of wood, and then in other areas, it was wood with inserts of stone. Just to keep playing. Again, yin and yang, opposites,
Interesting. All right, should we go up to the next floor plan?
Yes. Okay. This is the living room of the same house.
Okay.
So,
Annie, just back a second, just so we can see the floor plan. Okay.
They didn't want the living room thought. They wanted a room where they could hang out, where their friends could come in. They had a screen installed in the ceiling that came down. So they wanted a room where everybody was going to hang out when they came over. But he said, I want a separation. I want an area that if I want to be alone and I don't want to see the kids and all that, I want that, space. So what you see one sofa facing the outside. Behind it was bookcases, and we did frosted glass. So the light would travel through. Behind it, there were sliding glass doors that could close the room off. And then at the other end, I did an enormous U-shaped sofa, and I took the fabric from the sofa and upholstered just the walls around where the sofa was in channels. And the sofa had the same sort of channels, so it was an intimate, as you see it right there, it was an intimate area where you could sit, and then the rest of the area was all covered in a wonderful grass cloth. You can see on the left-hand side the bookcases with the frosted glass behind, and if you look at the lower left side, you see the frosted glass that sort of made the two spaces work together, but still privatized it.
That's cool. That glass bookshelf, I didn't realize it went all the way to the ceiling. That's really cool. So it does really divide the two spaces.
Right, while still being open. What's interesting is this was done, I say, 18 years ago. I think that, to me, the most successful jobs are the ones that have no time. They're not thematic. There's always a blending of elements, a sense that that space, you can't date it by, oh my God, that's the sofa from such and such a showroom that was successful, popular 2 years ago. Nothing in this space except the classic furniture are the things that really you can relate to. All the rest is unique. Each time you look at it, it's reading new. Because there's no, you're not tying it to any particular period.
Can you talk about color and flow a little bit? Because I photographed many of your projects, and often they'll have like a very white, light living room, and then there'll be an adjacent room that's dark and cozy. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, they wanted brown, which was great because in this very contemporary house, the brown just sort of brought it down to earth. So that was something that, again, was their not demands, they were their requests. I like, again, the sense of libraries, of environments that you feel enclosed. I don't like them all being open or all being enclosed. And I think so many times people now these days with these mega houses have a lot of rooms that serve the same purpose. So when approaching spaces, I try to give each space its own unique personality while still having it be all copacetic. It's like music. Sometimes it goes up, it goes down. And I want the spaces to do that. So the rooms that I like dark usually bring another personality to the space. And clients usually they like jewel tones or earthy tones. So you're trying to always give them what they want, but always in an unexpected way that they could never have thought about.
Uh-huh.
Hence why we charge what we charge, because what we have, they don't have.
Exactly.
They have the money, we have the talent. It's a nice marriage together.
All right, Annie, let's go to the next slides, please.
Okay, this is a space, it's called the Watch Box. It's in Sag Harbor, and it used to be a watch factory. So when the client took me to see the space, he showed me two spaces. The first one was very square. And I said, oh, this is the one. It's square, it's perfect. And then we went to look at this and he said, but this is the one I love. And first I looked at it and I said, why? There's this beige section on the left. It's not, there's not a quirkiness, but there's a unbalanced quality about it. And he said, that's what I want. I want a space that looks like it's a loft, that it wasn't pre-thought as being perfect. And so obviously I worked the seating in the cove section, which has wonderful views of the ocean, of the water. On the right-hand side was the kitchen. So we worked out the dining. They have a beautiful piece of sculpture that is a tapestry. So we hung it behind the dining area. And there were all these beams. The ceiling was wood. It was all brick. And he said, I love the brick. And I said, I don't like the brick at all. So I said, why don't we paint it? How can you do that to the brick? So we did different sections where one section was painted, one section was whitewashed, and the wood in the ceilings, we kept the beams, but we painted the wood white. So you enter the space and what you really are hit immediately with is the textures. It's the earthiness of this industrial space, but the white sort of gave it a soft edge to it. And as you can see, we created this wonderful sofa to sit in. I got sheared lamb's wool, lamb's wool that we did the carpet. So there was something really, really comfortable. It was the first space, when I did the space, I wanted my work to pass a page and really start evolving to a different point of view. And so I wanted every piece to be different, every piece to be upholstered in a different fabric, but when you looked at it, for it to be copacetic. And he kept saying, I'd worked with them before. He said, well, tell me, what is it that you're doing? I said, I can't explain it. He said, well, why can't you explain it? I said, because when you see it, you'll understand. And when we presented it, he said, I understand. Nothing matches anything. There's no fabric that has anything to do with the other except color. I love it. Michael was a great art collector. So he loved the idea that the space had been painted, not decorated. And I love the space. I think it's like, I finished it and I thought I accomplished what I wanted to accomplish for myself, which was a space that was copacetic, but had nothing decorated about it. It was all sort of like evolved. Not really, but it was sort of evolved.
Well,
Am I talking too much?
No, it's perfect. I mean, I often think of your rooms, I mean, even your more traditional rooms, like you have a lot of different personalities.
Hello?
You couldn't hear that? Can you hear me now?
Well, yeah. It had a little bit of everything. It had a gilded chair, it had a lucite chair. And how I designed it, I just started going through First Dibs and looking at different furniture. I like that, take it out. I like that, take it out. And then it was a deck of cards and I shuffled them all together. And I sort of juxtaposed one with the other. You know, first it was the gilded next to the lucite, but that was two different. So we sort of cooked the meal when I gathered all the ingredients together without looking at a recipe. It was fun. I put it together. I loved it. I still do. It's something that I look at again and I say, wow, you did that.
Well, that rug is a genius. And it's
Well,
so,
I did it like amoeba shaped because a round one would have been too precise, square would have fit. So it was all just so very sort of watery in quality.
right. So it's very serene, but very interesting. At the same
Right.
time. That's a word. All right, Annie, let's go to the next set.
Okay. So these people came to me and, Westbury, and they said, well, we have this room, and she tried to decorate it. And she said, I finished it and I looked at it and I hated it. I hated it because nothing had to do anything with anything. It was just like a lot of furniture, which is, what I think a lot of people who want to do it themselves end up doing is just buying furniture. And so the requirements was place to watch television. She hated the fireplace. He loved the fireplace. They wanted a place to play cards or where they could eat. So I created on the left-hand side as you came in, I created a big mirror. It was like 9 foot square. I kept the fireplace. It was a big fight because she kept saying, rip it out, rip it. I said, you just have this fireplace, but nothing is really playing with it. It's just a stone thing. Let me create something around it. So I did a large mirror. I put a banquette next to it, a wonderful table pulled up to it. I brought a little bit of decoration by doing the chairs in 2 tones. It just sort of, it opened the space up. And on the other side, I did a big L-shaped sofa. I did furniture that was more sort of relaxed to it. And again, I did the walls in a grass cloth. So it had cohesiveness of color, tying together different functions for the space. And I did, I think it was, an area rug. So you had the seating area sort of controlled by the rug, and then the other area, which was the banquette, was standing free. So it allowed to create 2 totally working areas within the one large room.
Yeah, I love the 2-tone dining chairs.
Yeah, I mean, it was a little decoration, but what the hell?
Really nice.
I mean,
Mirror.
well, because they wanted it practical. They had kids. So we did the inside in a vinyl, and then we brought the fabric to the outside, which wouldn't get dirty. So it was serving, a double purpose.
That's smart. All right, Annie, let's go to the next set.
Okay, so this friend of mine came to us, and it was a house that had been built in the 50s, and every 10 years they did an addition, but the addition had nothing to do with anything else. So it was like a puzzle of all these different shapes and forms and roofs, and that just made no sense. So we ripped off the roof, created a flat ceiling, opened it up to the outside, made the space sort of like one large space, but created a separation of a foyer. And again, here is the same idea as the stone floors. As you walked up to the house, the walkway was brick. So we created an insert of brick in the foyer to sort of bring the outside in. And then you can see it up there. And then we started wood floors that traveled all the way through up to the kitchen, which then became brick again. And so I created 2 separate seating areas. One was on the other side of the curtain, which you see, I did 3 very large scale wing chairs with an ottoman in front, so people could sit around there, and if it was just them, he got married, him, his wife, and another couple, it gave them a place. And then on the opposite, the other end of the room, we knocked out the wall that faced the backyard, and we did it all out of glass, and we created a freestanding fireplace. So I did a big curved sofa that faced the fireplace and faced the exterior. Behind the sofa, you see that sort of soft green color, because what I realized is because all the greenery outside, the light reflected in and it had a green cast to it. So I thought, wouldn't it be wonderful to have this floating wall, which we lit all the way around from behind, and then lacquered it in the green. So you didn't know if the green was the exterior reflecting on the wall, or had it been painted a different color. To create with the three wing chairs, we did a pendant lampshade over it, over the ottoman. So it really, again, it separated the areas, but it all functioned together. And you could see the curtain as you come in on the upper left-hand side. So you sort of, it was sort of like a voile, a textured, you know, it's just so translucent that you were able to see the room on the other side, but only as a sort of, not a fantasy, but a mirage through the curtains. It was really great. It was a great space. I'm sorry?
I think I shot this project with you, maybe for El Decor or something.
Yes, it was. It was El Decor.
Yeah.
And now we're starting a renovation of the kitchen area and expanding it. So that's sort of fun to go back. I was there on Thursday, when, you know, I'm very messy individual. But when I walk into a client's home, it's immediately fluff the pillows, straighten everything up, all the accessories that the housekeeper has turned at an angle, they all got straightened out. And when I walked in, the room looked tired. But all of a sudden, when it all got, you know, like adjusted, all of a sudden the room came back to life. It was really nice.
Tell us about the curtain wall. Why the curtain wall as opposed to a regular wall, like a, you know, a sheetrock wall or a plaster wall?
Why a lacquered wall?
No, why the curtain wall? Because that's something
Because I didn't want to separate the spaces, and they entertain a lot. So if they have a party, they open the curtain all the way, and it just becomes one big room. I wanted you to walk in and see softness, but I didn't want you not to see what was at the other side of the curtain. So it was like this very glossy looking textured fabric that you could see shapes through it. I didn't want you to feel enclosed or restricted. I wanted you to feel that it all sort of flowed one to the other.
Well,
and I mean, curtains, I think they're great. I mean, it's an inexpensive way of dealing with in front of closet doors, separating rooms. It's a cheap way to deal with what could be a problem.
Okay. Next, Annie.
Okay, I'm trying to think. Who is this? Ooh.
The next slide.
Okay. Go back to the plan. So I started to work with this client in his middle 70s. His previous wife had passed away, and now he was remarried. The wife that had passed away loved Louis. Everything was Louis with no sense of authenticity to it. So there was moldings everywhere. Everything was reproduction, you know, Frenchy, you know, horrible. Yeah, sconces, gilded. I mean, it was like, oh my God. And when you see the L-shaped sofa, you see where it's dark. That was a pair of doors that led into the dining room. And the wall, where's the passageway now, was solid. So it was sort of like you had a walkway through the whole living room, dining room. So the first thing I thought was close those doors, open it to the window. That he wanted it contemporary, he wanted modern, he wanted clean and fresh. So nothing better than to see, which is very traditional, a whole row of windows going all the way down. So by opening it up on the window wall, all of a sudden it gave you like this alley of windows. It gave me as well a corner to work with, because before you had a sofa against the wall and it was a passageway into the dining room. This gave me the opportunity to create an L-shaped sofa. So all of a sudden, though you still had a walkway into the dining room, all of a sudden you had like a cozy corner that you could sit, look at the fireplace. We installed a television above the fireplace. So it was a place that at night they could go there, hang out. I did an ottoman so they could put their feet up. And then on the opposite end, on the left-hand side, she wanted to play cards, and I wanted to create an elevation that sort of gave you a sense of wow, you know, like a bang. And so I did a sofa that went 3/4 of the wall with a card table pulled up to it and chairs. And here again, she loved that. What? I'm sorry?
Can you go to the next slide, Annie? Sorry, go ahead, Vincent. I'm sorry to interrupt.
She loved that job that I had done at the watch box or watch case. So she loved all that mixture of all these different uneven pieces of furniture. So I thought, perfect. I know exactly what to do here. So here you can see the windows going all the way down. This was the dining room. I found the wonderful 1940s. From the old decoration, I got those 2 vertical mirrors, and I mixed found wonderful gilded chairs, 2 of them, 1 French and 1 English, mixed it together. I picked up the same lamb on the floor, but instead of lamb, this time I did silk, sheared silk. So there was a sheen to the floor. Very simple window treatments, white walls. We designed a dining table that opened up. It was all just fresh and young, but there was so much molding. So there was molding on the ceilings, there was molding on the top of the wall. There was little squares on everything. And he said, we'll paint the moldings, it'll look just fine. And so we started with, well, let's remove from dado down. And then once we did that, he said, but now what's above it doesn't look right. I said, yeah, you're right. I think we should rip them out. So everything got ripped out, which at the end he realized that it altered the apartment immediately. From trying, to look older, an apartment trying to look older, now it was an old apartment trying to look young. Did mirrors.
About it is it's glamorous, but it's relaxed.
Right.
And I love
We did mirrors to
hung the
reflect
art on that far wall.
I'm sorry?
I love how you hung the art on the far wall.
Well, those were little. I mean, there were Lautrec, there were Degas, little drawings, and he was going to sell them. And I said, no, keep them. They're great. I love the little gilded frames. And we created that little setting, sort of like a 90-degree angle, but that's all it needed. He said, well, I'm going to go out, and he started sending me pictures of paintings, and I said, let me work with the little ones, and it'll do the trick, which it did. And so they're small, so you have to walk up to them and really discover them. So it was really nice.
That's so cool. All right, I think we have time for one more. So do you have
okay. Two years ago, Kips Bay, they asked me to do a roof. And so I didn't go and see the space. They sent me the plans. I picked this room. And when I went and saw it after it had been given to me, I said, my God, this is disgusting. It was dark. It was, again, balding. It was just, you walked, you came in, and through that door, you went to the backyard. So it was like, oh my God. The only thing I knew that I wanted to do was use the color aubergine. It was, Bob had a partner many years ago, and in the early 70s, that was the big color, aubergine. And I thought, I haven't heard aubergine in like 20 years. So they said, oh my God, look, he doesn't do just white, he does other things. So we were there in the room and trying to figure out what not always good, but fast. So I was standing there looking, and this lady who was a rep from Kohler came in and she said, oh, you're doing like a breakfast room, I guess. I mean, but you can use any Kohler product you want. I said, really? Do you have any new? She said, yes, oh, we have this new bath. And then, what is it called? It's a place that is the retail store that sells window treatments, the shade store. They came and they said, oh, you can use anything. We'll give you anything you want. So I said, really? Okay. And that's how the room started. I knew I had a bathtub. I went into VW Home, which is this great showroom with things from all over the world that I own. And I went shopping, which is always great. I like using somebody else's money, but in this case, you know. So I thought, okay, you had the passageway from the foyer to the backyard. And I said, I want to do a walkway of AstroTurf. And everybody in the office said, what? You're going to use AstroTurf? Somebody said, your reputation is going to be destroyed when people see AstroTurf. I mean, and I said, please, you know, if that's what it takes to ruin my reputation, I go with my gut. And so we painted the walls aubergine, did shears in the windows, created this great pedestal for this wonderful Chinese banyan. And then I had this old, beautiful 17th century table. And I always do a table over the ottoman, you know, because it gives you a place to put your feet up, but then a surface. And I said, why don't we just put the goddamn table over the bathtub? It works with an ottoman, it might as well work with a bathtub. And so that's what I did. We used fabric on the chairs, and we just, again, threw it together. Oh, the people that sold marble said, oh, we have marble. Would you want to use it? I said, yeah, I'll take it. We created a pedestal for the bathtub. Kohler gave me the faucet. And the room was great because you walked in, it was dark with the aubergine. Oh, we did lighting all around the bottom of the perimeter of the room, so all the walls were washed. You know, show houses are interesting. You know, you think, I want to create a room that somebody's going to walk in and hire me with. Instead, I want to create a room that used my imagination and made people think, oh, wow, wait, it's a bathroom, but it's next to the kitchen. What is it? And it was, we called it a dream room. A room where you went in, you could read, you could sit, you could lay in the bathtub, watch the fireplace. It was a fun room to do because it had no reality to it,
Yeah.
but it worked really well.
Cool. That's so fun. All right. So, and it's fun to see aubergine in the hands of Vincent Wolf. So we have time for a couple of questions. I'm going to just ask them to you. Vincent, do you draw your own plans or do you have someone else do them?
Well, I have the plans drawn up because I got fired out of 2 design offices because my plans never met. So they gave it to me. I then do the architecture to it, redraw it, and then hand it, and then they pass it on the, you know, on CAD. And then they give it back to me. I create the furniture plan, give it back to them. And meantime, I design the furniture, start balancing out the elements. And the last thing I do is color in fabrics, because I think that I have a whole wall of a lot of Schumacher fabrics in this wall. And I just say, I like that one. I pull it out. I like that color. I pull it out. And then I may have, for a room that may require 4 fabrics, I pull out maybe 8. And then I start balancing them out. All of a sudden, everything was shiny. So I find that color in something that's matte, and then I mix it with the other, and then that's how the room comes to life.
That's cool. So this is from my friend Wendy Pollins. Hi, Wendy. Wendy and I went to college together, and she's a designer out of Boston. How did the design allow for the glass wall to accept the bookcase structure? So that must be the room that had...
Right, the brown.
Yeah.
How did what?
How did the design allow for the glass wall to accept the bookcase structure? So I guess structurally, how did that work?
Oh, like a shower door, like a shower wall. You know, clips on the top and on the bottom. And then we did like recessed roller, you know, so you could open and close the doors. If I can say a couple things, I think that we are all living in a really difficult time. I think we cannot let go of our creativity, of our soul, because we're being affected so much all the way around. Fear, financial, are there ever going to be any more clients? And I think that if we let go of our soul, which is what makes us who we are as creative people, we are really being really losing it. And so you have to all out there stay together, understand that this will pass. I mean, I don't see it passing, but I know deep down, I'm 75. So for 75, I've seen a lot of water under the bridge. And I know that things will pass. They're difficult times, but it will make us better because we will appreciate whatever we get from now on as a gift from a higher power.
Well,
I saw Michelle Obama last night and she really inspires me.
Love it. All right, well, I think we have to end on that because I can't think of a better ending. It's very uplifting. Vincent, you were amazing. Thank you for being my friend and for bringing the world so much beauty. Thank you for your generosity as always.
And thank you, Dara, for your enormous creativity. Because like myself, I think that your creativity and your vision came from within. You look at things and you know what's right and what is not right and what works instinctually, not by a book, but by your gut. And I think that that's what has made you so successful through so many years at whatever level you have worked in.
Well, thank you, Vincent. That means a lot. All right. Well, I'll talk to you soon. Lots of love. Oh, and
Bye, everybody.
thank you, Vincent. So nice to see you and hear your wisdom. That's from Patricia. Okay.
Not much wisdom, but I don't know.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.